Hello, my name is Lodish1. I'm a professor of marketing at the Wharton School, and I'm also Vice Dean for Wharton's campus in San Francisco. And I've been fortunate enough to have been involved with the Executive MBA program here at Wharton West since it began in 2001. The reason that Wharton started this program here in San Francisco involves two aspects, a short-term and a long-term. Let me talk about the long-term first. Wharton is a global business school. In order to be a global business school, our faculty and our students should be aware of how business is conducted in the major business centers around the globe. Wharton in 1999 began an alliance with INSEAD, Europe's best business school. INSEAD in 2000 opened a campus in Singapore, and we have a very close alliance with INSEAD, and both students and faculty actually can spend time in either Singapore or Fontainebleau. Therefore, we at least have Europe covered and Asia covered. However, when you look at how business is conducted here on the West Coast, in San Francisco, in Los Angeles, in Silicon Valley, it's just like another country. And our faculty have been coming out to the West Coast for a number of years doing research to understand how business is done here. And it was appropriate from the point of view of the school's strategic mission to get closer to the West Coast. The fact that we did it by opening up an MBA for Executives program has to do with the fact that no one who we viewed as our potential competitors, who were elite business schools in the West Coast, had any kind of a program like our MBA for Executives in the West Coast, and especially in the Bay Area. So we decided that there was a market hole, short term, we filled it, and it also fulfilled a long-term strategic mission. Why is the MBA for Executives program different? Well, one, its name is different, and the reason it's called the Wharton MBA for Executives is because it, unlike any other program on the West Coast, is a full-fledged, full-strength MBA program. In terms of everything that it is very similar to our full-time program in terms of, one, the number of hours of classes, two, the curriculum is almost identical, three, we have the same teachers teaching it. They come out from the East Coast, from Philadelphia, and fly out and teach in it. And the requirements for admission in terms of analytical ability and management aptitude are the same as our East Coast full-time program and our East Coast MBA for Executives program. We have been doing the MBA for Executives program in the East Coast for 34 years, and we are taking in our 8th class as I speak here in San Francisco in 2008. There is one big difference between the full-time MBA program and the MBA for Executives program that I'd like to outline. And that has to do with what happens in the classroom. Even though the curriculum is the same, the teachers are the same, and the requirements for admission are the same, a very different thing happens in the classroom. And in order to understand that, let me contrast the three kinds of students that I teach and my colleagues teach. We have full-time Wharton undergraduates, we have full-time Wharton MBAs, and then we have the MBA for Executives. The full-time undergraduates are fun to teach. It's very refreshing because all they want to know is, does it count and will it be on the exam, and they write down everything you say. The full-time MBAs have typically 3 to 5 years of business experience, and they have one thing in common that a lot of people don't realize until you point it out, and that is our full-time MBAs have typically not made a big mistake in their career yet, because if they made a big mistake, they wouldn't get in. And even though Wharton does a much better job than a lot of our competitive institutions, there's still a little bit of arrogance and a little bit of cynicism in the classroom because they really haven't made a big mistake yet. When you contrast that to the students in the MBA for Executives program, who are typically 35 years old on average and have 10, 11, 12, some of them as many as 20 years of business and work experience, they've made a lot of mistakes in their career. And more importantly, they're mature enough to understand that if they share those mistakes with their colleagues, they're going to be adding value to everybody. So even though we cover the same material in the classroom, what happens is the classroom discussion is much more about how that particular concept, method, or model, or paradigm needs to be adapted to the situations that a lot of the students find themselves in and have found themselves in. So the classroom's discussions are, at least from my point of view and a lot of my colleagues' point of view, more rich, and in fact the faculty ends up learning a lot from the students as opposed to the students learning from the faculty. The last thing I would just like to say is that this program, because the students are still working as opposed to our full-time program, they get to take what they've learned on Friday and Saturday and apply it on Monday when they go back to the office. And I did do, about a year and a half ago, a very careful analysis of 13 randomly selected students who had just finished their first year. And I asked them, how did the program impact your career and your performance on your job? And from 11 of the 13, I got back chapter and verse of very specific ways that what they learned in their courses were very helpful on their jobs, and the impact in terms of added value to their companies dwarfed both the tuition that they were paying and the time that they devoted to the program. The other two were still working on longer term projects that hadn't come to fruition yet. I think in summary, this is a very valuable program that it's extremely competitive in getting into, and that will be the subject of the next video. But if you can get in, it's a life-changing experience and very worth your while. Thank you.